Hello friends and subscribers, welcome back to Daniel's Tech World here on YouTube. My name is Daniel Rosehill, and in today's video and in a few videos coming up after this one, we're going to be looking into the wonderful, exciting world of prompting and using different prompting strategies to try to get different results from AI systems like ChatGPT or really any large language model that you might be interested in using. Today's one is going to be demonstrating something called iterative prompting, where instead of trying to just kind of load everything into one mega prompt as such, we're going to break up the process a little bit and hope that in doing this, we're going to get more informed results. As the AI is going to give us information, we're going to get more clear ourselves on what we're looking for until we ultimately get a few recommendations for something we want to buy. And that is today's use case is online shopping, because who does not like buying stuff on the internet? Before we get into the video, just a couple of things I want to say about this use case for large language models, online shopping recommendations. Traditional way in which limitation of LLMs is that they have a training period in which they're exposed to large chunks of data, basically tons and tons of data, not literally tons, exabytes of data, gathered from the internet, all sorts of data that they learn about. Problem with stuff like online shopping is really that products can change, prices can change very, very quickly. We're seeing at the moment some nice innovations happening, a lot of focus actually in the space around stuff like API integrations and RAG and real-time searchability. So there's going to be a lot of improvement in this. Not really improvements in the sense of fundamental changes to how LLMs work, but rather integrating them with live data sources. So I think this information in a year will probably be even outdated. Already it's quite good if you don't need data that's necessarily, up to the minute accurate. It can be helpful, but again, very, very quickly, we're seeing this limitation being overcome before our eyes. Let's do a little bit of prompting, and I'm just going to show you guys a shopping strategy or what I would use if I were buying something in a series of prompts. So I'm actually looking at the moment for a trackball, and I'll show you guys how I would go through a few prompts and also explain my rationale for doing so. The first prompt that I would do, whether this was a trackball or a laptop, whatever I'm looking for online, is I personally would start by asking for manufacturers. This might seem a strange approach. I'm doing this approach for a reason, because having bought stuff on Amazon for a number of years now, I can't help but notice that year after year, it's becoming a bit harder to find quality products and manufacturers on the platform. A lot of dubious manufacturers coming on there with what I would call bribes, like give our thing a 5-star review and we'll give you something back. And that's really skewed the reliability of what you see on Amazon and just shopping based on reviews. So I've actually gone way back pre-Amazon Day almost methodology of saying, well, who's actually good? And then we'll see what they have. So that's what I'm going to do in my first prompt, is just kind of scope out maybe who is good at this hardware. So I'm also going to give it a little bit of context, explaining what I want to use it for. When we're working in context, someone mentioned in a comment, ChatGPT memory. Yes, some LLMs do have memory that persists across sessions. It's pretty thin. It's not the deepest. If you're using Perplexity, it doesn't have that at all. I just assume that it doesn't really exist, as most tools I'm using are not ChatGPT. Might have a little bit of context there, but it really never hurts to just inject it if it's not too onerous to do so. So in that vein, let's write the first prompt. I am looking for recommendations for quality manufacturers of trackballs. I currently use a mouse, a vertical mouse, the Logitech MX Vertical, but I want to start using a trackball in addition when doing stuff like video editing and graphic editing. I am right-handed, so I would prefer a ambidextrous trackball. I recommend 3 high-quality manufacturers who have a good reputation in the space of ergonomics and make trackballs that have a good reputation. Okay, so I'm using, by the way, as I've mentioned in the few videos, I'm using the AI Whisper Chrome extension, which is really, really good, and certainly if you're doing voice prompting, speeds up that quite significantly. You might see that I have my prompts formatted in a certain way. This is for my own retention. It's a system prompt that I've added to the system, saying when you are outputting, first write back my prompt, and that holds pretty well. So just a little hack you can do if you are like me, storing your outputs in a system and you want to get them in a structured manner. So yeah, these are basically kind of the ones that I would go for. There's Kensington and there's Logitech, and I'm less familiar with Elecom, but okay. quickly emerged as a major player. So I'm going to just kind of focus on Kensington and Logitech. Those are two brands that I trust. And now, having taken that first step, I'm going to go and actually start scoping out the products that I might want to buy. So this is prompt number 2. Can you recommend a few high quality trackballs from either Logitech or Kensington? I am looking for a trackball that I can use in addition to my primary input device. Can you recommend 5 good products with those specs? Okay, I probably didn't need with those specs. There's always things when you're using voice prompting, you're kind of naturally just a little bit less tight on the language, but it definitely does save a bit of time. So my second prompt is we're getting now into, I've added just a bit more context, again, splitting up the work here. Let's say it's my first time looking at this area, and I say, okay, this is interesting. So we have 5 products here, and even this, they all sound, reasonably good. And key things to consider: the wireless and the wrist rests, which I really actually am not a fan of. So although I asked it to specify both Kensington, and I can think, okay, let's just look at what it's recommending. Programmable buttons, would that be useful for me? I'm not really sure. So let's maybe get the AI to help us a little bit to clarify what we're looking for. What I am looking at using the trackball for is when I'm working on a video editing timeline and I'm doing stuff like color correction or working through a timeline, and it requires very fine adjustment. I might be using my right hand for working on clips, but I like to have my little left hand free to do a little bit of edit. So with that additional context, would you recommend different products? Maintain the original specs as I specify them. Output a new list with this instruction in mind. So you don't, again, strictly really need to tell it to like kind of keep within the context of the thread, but sometimes I do add that little bit to the end of the prompt just to make sure that the AI knows that it's being instructed to work within the context of this conversation, and not just go back and forget that I said that, I want it to be from one of these companies. So I'm just going to feed in this prompt and see if this kind of refines the spec one step before we get to the products. Now, an interesting question, I think, is how long can we go with the iterative prompting? Like, can we keep doing this and doing this and doing this? And as I always say, it comes back to context, in the sense that the longer we're going here, the more context we're using. If we're using a model with an awful lot of context, like let's say Claude, this is less of an issue, but it's something just to kind of bear in mind. I would say probably 5 to 7 is a conservative recommendation. Each time you do an output and you send in another input, at least when you're using these tools via API, generally, each time you're sending the whole conversation thread back and forth. I would say don't go kind of too crazy with this, but you can definitely get, a number of iterations out of this. It's got a large ball. Okay, that's great. But now I haven't told it yet that I really need it to be wireless. Okay, so we're already down to 3 good product recommendations. Okay, so I might see this and I can say, okay, well, how large is large? Size of these products, right? And again, this is information that I'm deliberately asking because I know knowledge that the LLM appears to have about these products is coming from something like an e-commerce API. That data is going to be in the product spec. So I try to kind of search based on stuff that I know it's going to know and not be making up. And I'm going to just feed it in this additional requirement. In addition to the previous requirements I set out, I would like a trackball that is not so huge that it's going to be very cumbersome to fit into a backpack. Among the options you have identified so far, are there any that are reasonably compact and which are sold with a travel pouch to keep them safe? Okay, so I think we're up to prompt number 4 here, and we're starting to get, I think, a good idea. We've got our manufacturer down, we've got a few good things that we know we're looking for. Now I'm adding in just the kind of travel aspect. Okay, so these are compact, and there is a specific hard case, so I'm a huge fan of buying these hard cases just to keep the thing safe and being able to bring them on the road, really. And very helpfully, it's come back with the product dimensions for both of these products. So really now it's a 2-headed race, which is great because we're almost there in terms of buying a product. And the only question I have really left is, well, how much do these things cost? Another thing, having already done a little bit of research into this before I started the video recording, is I noticed that some of these trackballs have been around on the market forever. But I'm just going to, for my final prompt, I'm going to get those get those data points as well to help me make that final decision. This is going to be the hopefully second last prompt, and I'm just going to say, those look like two great recommendations. Can you list for each? 1, the year the product was released. 2, the recommended retail price in US dollars. And number 3, for wireless, do both have 2.4 gigahertz as well as Bluetooth? Please list that as well. All right, so we're just going to get this final kind of little nudge in the spec in, and this will hopefully enable us to make our final decision. So we have now got the results back. So we can see that these two guys, I've been seeing them on Amazon. Really, there's not a huge amount in it in terms of how modern they are. They're both, this was 2020, this was 2021. But here is something important that I got from this prompt, which is that the Kensington Orbit wireless trackball with the scroll ring has dual wireless. It's got 2.4 gigahertz and it's got Bluetooth. 2.4 gigahertz I find does make a really big difference when you're using wireless, a lot of wireless devices at your desktop. So this is the end for me. I have my trackball, and now really all I need to do is go out and buy it somewhere. So let's just do one last prompt, and I can say just to kind of round out the strategy. And yes, I'm going to be using manners when I'm talking to my LLM, but you certainly don't need to say please and thank you and all that stuff. Can you summarize the thread we have had today? I'd like you to provide a consolidated list of my specifications, including all the requirements I added on in separate prompts. List the Kensington Orbit wireless trackball with scroll ring as winner, and list also 3 other options that we considered during the evaluation, and state why I didn't choose them. So produce a final output summarizing both my specs and all the data that you retrieved. So the reason I'm doing this is because let's say that I am saving my prompts as I do prompts and outputs, or as I advocate. I wouldn't really want to save this whole long back and forth I've had with the large language model. So what I'm looking to do actually in this final prompt, the strategy is I'm just trying to get consolidated into a single document that I can refer to. If I don't get around to buying this thing, soon, I can go back and it'll summarize everything that I said during my evaluation process. And again, forget the trackball. Think about you're buying something more significant like a laptop or whatever. You might, it might be a more involved purchasing decision. Already, it's done a lot of good work here. It's summarized all my specs. It's given me the one that I chose as a winner, and it's given us a few alternatives as well. So what I would do personally is just copy this out of Perplexity or whatever you're using, save it somewhere as, a trackball to buy, and then you've consolidated this whole big list and this whole big dialogue into a single document that you can refer to. I hope that was helpful. That's how you can use a series of prompts really to do just about any kind of purchasing research. With the large language model, it certainly works well and can save a lot of time, going through these agonizing searches on Google if you're looking for something to pick up. Thank you for watching today's video. Hope it was useful. And to get more videos, subscribe to this channel.